Merry Christmas, everybody. RHINO here, the world's strongest pro bodybuilder and inventor of the new and improved Cooler 2.0. What better way to start off Christmas Day than with a 10-minute walk and another episode of 10 Talks? Thanks for keeping me company. Wintertime is gain season, time of year where all of us meatnecks love to pack on the mass. But believe it or not, some people have a hard time gaining weight or eating enough quality foods to hold on to their muscle mass and fuel their workouts. If you're one of those people that has a hard time eating enough of the right foods to build muscle, this talk will give you 14 tips to increase your appetite and calorie intake. First off, there's a difference between quality and quantity. I've spoken a lot recently about horizontal versus vertical dieting. Eating horizontally is what we call the dirty bulk. Eating as much of anything and everything as you can. It's IHOP for breakfast, meatball subs for lunch, and pizza for dinner. Focusing entirely on quantity and not quality. I covered this at length in my rant on training the metabolism. The biggest problem with the dirty bulk is adding too much body fat, which negatively affects insulin sensitivity and causes you to gain even more fat. The manner in which your body utilizes the calories you consume is called nutrient partitioning. And it's important that we create the right environment for our body to use the food we eat to build muscle and not store fat. With that in mind, let's dive into my top 14 tips for increasing appetite. Tip number 1, equipoise. Just keeping it real. Using EQ to improve appetite has been a favorite in the bodybuilding world since the 1970s. But if you're natty, like Mike O'Hearn, you'll have to skip that one. But so long as we're talking about appetite drugs, I'll throw in the peptide GHRP6 and the synthetic marijuana drug Marinol. They work too. Tip number 2, too much fat and too much protein will suppress appetite. They fill you up faster and keep you full longer. Keep your fats under 10% of your total calories. And since carbs are protein sparing, you can reduce your protein to less than a gram per pound of lean body weight and still maximize muscle growth. And that leads us to tip number 3, eat lots and lots of carbs. Yes, carbs. In particular, white rice, because it's easy to digest. Massive amounts of pasta, bread, oatmeal, or beans take longer to digest, and between the wheat, the lectins, and the phytic acid, they'll wreak havoc on your digestion in the quantities needed to grow. Now, the year Ronnie Coleman was nearly 290 pounds on the Olympia stage, Chad Nichols had him eating 800 to 1,000 grams of carbs a day. Flex Wheeler had me eating over 600 grams of carbs in white rice when I was dieting and won my pro card. I have Larry Wheels, Hafthor Bjornsson, and now Brian Shaw all doing the same. Remember, this isn't your overweight sedentary grandfather's diet. This is vertical dieting to get jacked and strong. And before everyone freaks out, we better talk about tip number 4. Earn your carbs. The great thing about eating a lot of carbs is you can fuel more frequency and volume and recover better. All you have to do to stay insulin sensitive is move more. The best way to maximize carbs performance benefits is to take a 10-minute walk after each of 3 meals and train twice daily. Do it for a shorter length of time, and it stimulates the muscles more frequently to uptake more carbs. Now, walking is twice as effective as the diabetes drug metformin for improving insulin sensitivity. Which brings us to tip number 5. Don't take metformin, don't drink apple cider vinegar, and don't refrigerate your leftover rice and heat it up later. But Stan, you say, research suggests metformin and apple cider vinegar increase insulin sensitivity. Well, I too have read the research, and the mechanism by which that happens is through impeding carbohydrate absorption, specifically starches. Why would we want to eat 800 grams of carbs a day to grow and then take something that impedes the absorption? The answer is we wouldn't. As for reheating your rice, research suggests that cooling rice creates resistant starches that can't be digested easily. So always keep a rice cooker going. I have 2 time-delayed rice cookers set up, so I always have fresh, warm rice. Costco has a great one for 39 bucks. Tip number 6, frequency is more important than quantity. I eat foods that digest easily, so I'm hungry again in an hour or 2. I stay away from foods that bloat me, high satiety foods, like pasta, pizza, fast food, bread in general, potatoes, and legumes. And I avoid high gas vegetables like broccoli, asparagus, onions, and garlic. Instead, I cook low gas vegetables like spinach, peppers, and carrots. I'll attach a link for a list of foods that are easy to digest called low FODMAP foods. Tip number 7, dextrose and fructose. I sprinkle a little dextrose on my rice to make it easier to eat and digest faster. It stimulates saliva production, so there's more amylase to start the breakdown of starches. And small amounts of fructose powerfully stimulates the liver, which improves metabolism, since the majority of thyroid conversion occurs in the liver. For this reason, I drink 3 ounces of pulp-free orange juice, either with a meal or between meals, about 3 times a day. And that keeps the liver happy, which helps stimulate appetite. And on that note, my post-workout drink is tip number 8. After each workout, I mix 25 to 50 grams of dextrose with 25 to 50 grams of fructose, or pulp-free orange juice, and I take 3 buffered salt tablets called thermotabs, along with 100 milligrams of no-dose caffeine tablet. This is a trick I picked up from George Lockhart, who's Conor McGregor's nutritionist. Mike Dolce has his own version, where he puts a 1/4 cup of rice in a coffee grinder to make rice powder, and then he blends that with fruits, sea salt, and 20 grams of whey isolate powder. In the old days, back before the internet, I used to eat a big bowl of white rice with honey or sugar on it after workouts. Sugar and honey is almost half fructose, so the effect is similar. I eat a normal meal with proteins and fats about an hour after this drink, so as not to slow absorption. There's a more rapid uptake and increased amount of absorption and storage when these carbs, sodium, water, and caffeine are combined. Drastically improves recovery, stamina, and endurance for the second daily double. Tip number 9, the Monster Mash. I just posted a Meals in a Minute video demonstrating how I mash up bison burger with a fork and mix it with my rice and some chicken stock so it's moist and I don't have to chew a lot, making it easier to eat and it digests faster. Now Derek Poundstone and Blaine Summers, they take it a step further. They blend their chicken in a blender and drink it. Now I tried that once. Tip number 10, salt all of your meals. Sodium will make you very hungry, and it works in concert with water, calcium, and glucose for amazing performance-enhancing benefit. Now, I've spoken about this in detail, and I've included reference articles in my rant entitled Creatine Sucks, but this works. Tip number 11, don't drink a lot of water with meals so you don't fill up, and your stomach acids aren't diluted, which leads us into tip number 12, never take antacids. They decrease stomach acid, which impairs digestion and absorption of nutrients. For those that suffer from heartburn, I recommend you take HCl and Pepsin. For a complete guide to curing heartburn and GERD, I've attached an article by Chris Kresser. Tip number 13, stay cool. It's much easier to eat and digest food when you eat in a cool environment. Wintertime is gain season. It's always harder to eat when it's hot because the blood's in the periphery cooling the body. And lastly, tip number 14, eat 1 Dorito an hour after a meal. Just 1. You'll be absolutely starving an hour later. To finish, I'll sum it up with a quote from Charles Poliquin. It doesn't matter what you ingest, it matters what you can assimilate. Well, that's the end of my walk and my 10 talk. Don't forget to check out thecooler.com where the Signature Series Flex hats are still free with any purchase. Buy a cooler, get a free hat. Buy a t-shirt, free hat. Buy a hat, free hat. Thanks again for listening, and Merry Christmas to you and your family.